live. So hey nerds and everyone. It's weird with me doing this instead of Sammy. So hey everyone, welcome to the Nerdy Up North podcast, the nerdy podcast hosted by Northern Nerds. I'm one of your hosts, Paul, and the other host is busy working today. So haha. So we are joined by three other nerds though that are well known and well versed in the Nerd Up North community. We have a podcast regular, shall we say now, like I say, a part of the team, the lovely Jessica, and we have Daddy Discord himself, the deviant, the rogue icon, who basically melts the hearts of many nerd boys out there, and like I said, men want to be him, women want to have him, especially if you're called Little Jess. There's the look there. And we have the number one fan. She's got it there so far. I can't take it away from her just yet. Beth, who has basically watched every single stream, everything that we've done for the last year. We can't get fucking rid of her. So yes. So say hi, guys.
Hi, everyone.
Yes. So this episode today, it is like a bit of a midday special. We thought we would throw it in just with, like, say, me having a lot of spare time and basically wanting to get a few extra bits of content out there. Now, for the last 2 weeks, we did have a few votes. Last week's vote won, and it was Lee's choice of Demolition Man. This week, we did have another vote, and The Mummy won by a fucking landslide. I don't think any other films got close to it, did it? I can't even remember. I wanted The Turtles, which we're doing on Friday. I think that was the closest second, but like I say, it wasn't even in the ballpark there. And I think when we put the advertisement out that we were going to do an episode on The Mummy, I've never seen anyone hit my DM so quickly as Jessica. Like I say, she was in there, like I say, saying, "Oh, I need to be on this episode." It wasn't just saying, "Can I be on this episode?" It was, "I need to be on this episode." It was, and it was to the point where I was like, "I can't say no to this. I would be the ultimate bad guy in the world if I did." But no. So yes, Jessica is joining us due to that, and like I say, Beth put a request to be on this one last week as well because she wanted to be on the X-Men because she is an X-Men fan, but unfortunately our card was filled for that episode, and it was a good episode, so go back and watch it if you haven't. Jessica was in that one, even though you might not recognize her in that episode. She was dressed up, putting us all to shame as Rogue. But yes, so before we start and get into like the nitty gritty of the movie as well, I'll do a Sammy, shall I? How are you guys? How are you today?
I'm okay.
So it's as awkward as Sammy does it as well. So it's not just Sammy. So it's the question, Sammy, not us. Right. So I'll get the disclaimer out of the way, because Sammy keeps fucking up on this on the Sunday night episode. I don't know why. She wrote this and she's memorized it for so long. Basically, she can't get the words out for some reason. So everything discussed today and today's episode, not tonight's episode, are our opinions and our opinions alone. If you want to discuss any topic from tonight's or today's episode, that's going to throw us. Please come join our Facebook group, and you can have an open discussion. We do have a Discord as well, but they are full of, it's just all talk about sex stuff and weird creatures there. What we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong. We can agree to disagree in fandoms, and let's keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behaviour out of nerdism there. So yes. So Lee's looking at us all disgruntled because I've dishonoured the Discord already as well. So
no, you were perfectly correct about them.
Yes, the deviants.
Most of the sex talk's just to me and Goodwill, to be fair.
It does get uncomfortable at times. I'm not going to lie. It's like, how far are these guys going to take it until they actually get a room? And we know when you get Goodwill in a room, he can be quite frisky as well. So it's always to be wary of. I think Sam will be offended if you get on the necklace before him. Because I know he's got, before her, sorry. Because he's got me and Jake on there. There's always space for another, but yes. So, The Mummy. So why did you guys want to come on this episode for The Mummy? So we'll start with Jessica first there.
One of the all-time greatest movies.
Right. That's a bold statement to start with.
One moment in this film is just perfect from start to finish. It gives you everything. I think it makes everyone question the sexuality. Like every character, you probably would. Probably would.
And in many people's dreams, the probably have as well. So I do agree there. It is this. I always bill this as the sexiest movie from the 90s that has a PG rating. Um, the one before this was probably Cruel Intentions, but I think that was a 15, not a PG. I don't know. I could be wrong there. Like I say, but Cruel Intentions has got different reasons and all the right reasons as well, though. But yes, I agree with the Mummy. It was a bit of a landmark, shall we say, when it first came out. It wasn't expected what we got. Like a lot of at the time unknown actors, shall we say, were in this. And after this movie came out, they became very well known. After this, it was kind of the making of a lot of people's careers. What about you, Lee? What drew you towards the Mummy? And was it Brendan Fraser being all Indiana Jones-esque?
I mean, Brendan Fraser's amazing in it, but
Mm.
this is a perfect film. It's just got everything. It's got action, adventure. It has no stupid 3D Scorpion versions of The Rock. It's got comedy. It's got horror, and most importantly, it's got no 3D CGI stupid versions of the Scorpion Rock.
So you've got problems with The Rock in this, I take it. Well, The Rock was in the sequel, wasn't it? Yes, which we'll talk about a little bit later on there. So
but no, the first film was perfect.
So that's two people now described it as the perfect movie. So that's interesting as well. Because let's be honest, there was no perfect movies in the 90s. Because the only perfect movies that was ever made was The Goonies, and you're all wrong. But yes. So Beth, what drew you towards this movie?
Again, I love it. Like Jess and Lee was saying, it is a perfect movie, but I love mythology, and Egyptian mythology was at the stage of my life where it was like a hobby. I was obsessive over it.
Okay.
Still am. And I just love it.
So when it comes to the mythology part of it as well, because like I'll be honest, like probably my mythology stops and ends at Agatha Christie, or was it Hercules Poirot? Sorry, like say when he's investigating the death on the Nile and stuff like that. But was the mythology on point, or was it close, or did it stray too far away from the myths and legends that were like of the pharaohs?
I think a bit of both. I think it needed a bit more of the mythology in it.
Right.
But it was still good.
Right. Okay. So it strayed away from the actual facts and like say the legends and just give us a bit of tits and ass as well at the same time.
I've missed quite a lot of facts from Egyptian history. Like there's not one Book of the Dead. Like books didn't exist until the Roman Empire.
Right.
It was all just papyrus scrolls, and rich people used to buy something called the Book of the Dead, which had spells. I say spells, it's basically just a guide on a journey into the afterlife.
Right.
And like gives you names of people that you're going to meet and how to get past them. Like the weighing of the heart and people guarding doors. Like it's, but there's hundreds of Books of the Dead. Right. There's one in the London British Museum.
Have you been trying to resurrect some mummies now, Lee? That's why you like to say become an aficionado on the Book of the Dead. But can you really class it as a book though? I know, like say, it opened pages and stuff, but it wasn't made of paper. That in the movie, it was more. I don't know what kind of would you say? It was a different type of material.
It's kind of papyrus. It's in the film. I think it's meant to be like a form of like slate. It's definitely like stone. I mean, how easily they all carry it is a little bit strange because it clearly would have weighed an absolute ton by the way that it looks. And I guess when they bring it out of living, it's made out of gold. So.
Yes, that's always.
There's no way they could have been running with that.
I don't know. But Brendan Fraser was kind of amped up there. He could have lifted anything at that time. But yes, the look and the feel of this movie was head and shoulders anything that we had at the time. I know this was late 90s. It was 1999, I believe. This got released. When it first released, I'll be honest, I didn't see it at the pictures. I waited. I think I saw it on like DVD, or even like might have been like a Sky release for the movie to come out. Because when the trailers hit, I wasn't that excited about it because there's been a lot of like failed action movies where action stars have tried to come in and do certain things, and it wasn't billed as the classic Universal horrors one as well. That always surprised me, because when you look at like all the ones that are trying to remake now and the amazing effort they tried with Tom Cruise, sorry I can't get straight face, the Tom Cruise effort, they tried to reboot the dark universe that we almost got. I'm surprised they didn't do more with the Universal horror side of this when it first came out. It just stayed as The Mummy, and they didn't really go off track too much with it.
It nearly happened from Stephen Sommers. I think when he did the first film, this was the aspect he was going to go on to do the Dark Universe.
Mm-hmm.
First movie comes out, it's a huge success. The studio goes, no, we don't want anything else. We want sequels. Give us more.
Mm-hmm.
Recreate what you did with this first movie. I mean, later on, he did go on and do Van Helsing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Stephen Sommers as well. So there's clearly from Stephen Sommers a huge love of trying to reignite the universe of monsters. I think not the right time. I don't think any. That's when people watch The Mummy. I don't think they went into it saying, "Well, I want to see Frankenstein next."
Right.
It was, I just want to see more Brendan Fraser. I want to see more of the cast.
Yeah.
Back doing this again.
I could see though Brendan Fraser being like the focal point, almost like the Van Helsing type role in the universe, if they wanted to go down that route. The sequel wasn't bad. It just wasn't The Mummy, shall we say? Well, it was The Mummy. It was pretty much the exact same film, just told in a slightly different way. The relationships have moved on, but it was basically the retelling of the same movie again, just with Moon type thing. I hope I said it right. Point of view, but I would have probably preferred to see that aspect again. Personally, would have more thing like maybe not go to like the big ones, like stay like The Mummy. As a kid, wasn't one of the big horror ones that you would always gravitate towards. It would always be Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman. So if they done almost like an Avengers, I know we talked about the Avengers again on last episode on the X-Men, like approach, like say starting with The Mummy, moving on to say like maybe like Brendan Fraser's on a boat going down the Amazon and comes across this fish-like person. That would again could have been quite interesting, where Evie is getting abducted and stolen by the creature of the Black Lagoon. Again, it writes itself. It makes that universe and makes you want to see it a little bit more, and like it makes you a little bit gutted that we didn't get that aspect to it as well. But we got what we got. We got 3 sequels and a prequel. The Mummy 3 wasn't a choice. Having Jet Li as the Mummy out there, didn't quite like it. I did like The Mummy 2 with the kids aspect. I thought that was quite fun. Normally I don't like kids in movies. The Scorpion King, well, it set us on the path with The Rock, shall we say. It was a starting point. That's probably the best I can state with that movie. But this one, as close to perfect as you could get as entertainment wise, it did have all the different elements and aspects that you kind of want from an action movie with elements of horror in there. I know we had a little bit of a debate where Lee just went, "No, this is not a horror movie." It is in essence
elements.
But if you look at the scary though, like Imhotep itself, when he's going through the transformation and he's taking all the parts of the Americans, like the eyes, the tongue, and then like just leaving the shell of the body and stuff, that is fucking nightmare fuel for any kid. I don't care how old you are.
I don't think it actually shows you the process in the first film, does it? I think the first time you see him draining someone's life out of them is in the second one in the train cart.
But that's the thing.
Yes, the only thing you ever see in the first one is the after effects. You see one guy in a shadow up on the wall as he's raised him up, but the rest of them it is just after he's done it. You'll see what exactly he did. These little shriveled bodies left over.
But isn't
that
it
still works without seeing it? Like you're still like, oh my shit.
But isn't it the Michael Myers effect as well? It's the stuff that you don't see or the thing that you can imagine that makes like things worse. Like if you don't tell us why Michael Myers is evil, your thought process is trying to work out why he's evil and like why he does the things he does, and that's more scarier than actually seeing the fact that.
I don't think he's that evil.
What, Mike Myers?
No, Imhotep.
Oh, Imhotep. Imhotep's just horny. You kind of keep it in his
on
pants.
the Facebook the other day, you put a post on about who's the most misunderstood villain.
Right.
And I can't remember who I commented, but after watching this again,
Mhm.
Imhotep's my choice for the most misunderstood film.
Right.
That guy, if you see it from his point of view, it's just a romance story, really. He's trying to get his girlfriend back.
Of like the weirdest bit of, I was having a look at people's theories and trivias to do with the film. And the weirdest one of all the theorizations I'd seen in the sense of Imhotep just being horny.
Yep.
Never considered this before. You know when he goes to kiss Evelyn when she's in the bed and his face starts to like come apart, and it's the only time you really see it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And someone's theory was it was like he's not fully recreated yet. So he has a limited amount of skin to cover himself. He's got his face, he's got his body.
I know where she's going here.
Where was he pulling the skin from?
What area of his body was growing to need skin? Lee, do you want to answer this question?
I'll pass.
But yeah.
Jessica's got this one.
To be fair though, if he lost that much of skin, he must have had a decent size. So we'll give him his dues. No wonder, like I said, Noxamamoon went to the dark side for him. So, but I just thought like all the way through this movie, like say the looks and like the actual feel of the movie is amazing. Like the start where they're in the temple and Noxamamoon walks in and it's just absolutely beautiful, and she's just like literally perfection walking through that door. And how they tell the story, like doing the voiceover narrative of saying how no one's allowed to touch her, and the way they find out she's been touched because her paint's on her arms being smudged and stuff. I didn't quite get the golden guards things. I always thought that was a bit bizarre. Like, why would you? Because paint yourself gold for a human being to worship just didn't always appeal to us. But
I think there might be a sense in that, in the same thing as Noxamamoon, that it was a celibacy thing. Again, for them, if their paint was smudged, it showed that they had done.
But wasn't like if you were celibate as a man them days, didn't they just castrate you type thing? They just used to chop off the bits, so you.
I reckon they were probably like very unsullied in the way.
Yes. So who was your favourite? Like, I know we're going to get probably a lot of same answers here, but who was your favourite characters in the Mummy?
I'll let someone else go first. No.
Come on, Beth.
We
all know your mum's favourite because she said Brendan Fraser's very shaggable just before we went online. So hi, Beth, mum. So yes. Yes. Hopefully watching in as well. So, but yes. So Beth, who was your favourite?
Evelyn.
Okay. So explain why. Because I've got reasons why I like Evelyn, but probably it's different from yours, or might be the same.
I think it's because for me, she was like an original nerd girl.
Right. Yeah.
And she didn't get that much attention because she knew her stuff, and with her being a woman, she got palmed off. Our woman should know this.
Yeah. Like stay in the library, don't leave the library, you're not allowed to go on excursions and stuff like that, or you're wrong and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Take that, Bembridge scholars.
Seeing Evelyn pissed was one of the funniest thing, and like seeing her getting like all arsey and like defensive and stuff. Then I'm gonna kiss you, then fall asleep. I thought like at that point she was gonna throw up. That would have been my type of humour I would have probably stuck it to. But the fact that she just passed out was quite sweet, and Brendan Fraser looked after her, and that little budding romance did blossom. It's one of those on-screen romances as well, where you wish it was real and you wanted it to go on after the screen, because you could see them two end up being all happy and living a happily ever after as well. What about you, Lee? What was your favourite character?
Probably Ardith Bay.
Right.
Oded Fair. Just he's probably like the greatest hero of this movie. I mean, I know Rick does finish the job, but he doesn't really put much effort into it. Like the final fight, they take his soul away, and it's just stab, it's over. but Ardith like sacrifices himself basically, and he was originally supposed to die.
All right.
But I don't know if it was the director or someone was like, we can't kill him. He's like, what a hero.
It was him and Stephen Sommers got along so well. He was like, I just can't kill you off. Like, I like you too much. You're gonna have to survive this.
He always seems to survive the movies he's in as well. I wonder if it is the likability factor, because like in Resident Evil and stuff like as well, he doesn't get killed off in them movies as well, does he? He
does. He dies in the third film.
All right.
Is it Carlos, I think, isn't he?
Yeah.
He is. He's Carlos Oliveira. Killed me when they killed him off. Like, not him.
He does.
And also, this is his first film as well. He was only in like 2 TV specials or something as well before this.
All right.
So, wow, like he really pulled this off.
Lee dropping the facts on us now.
My God, what hair! His hair is magnificent.
As a man that is very follically challenged, like I say, a lot of the hair in this film is very jealous. I love it when you get introduced to Brendan Fraser's character when he's in jail, and he's got like the wild man, like almost like a George of the Jungle type look coming out of the cage, and then like say you're meant to think he's this type of uncouth monster and stuff like that. But then when you see him, when they're loading up to go towards, and you got, I can't remember the name now, the little chubby guys.
Omid
Jalali, that's the one.
The warden.
Him like distracting you for a little bit, and then you just see this god in clothing walking towards the screen, and like see everyone, I think as well as Evie, just instantly falls in love with Brendan Fraser and just thinks that is the man that like say could save you in any situation and in any which way you want as well. And as Jessica said yesterday, probably would choke her a little bit as well. But no, mine was not even like the main character in it. Was Benny. I absolutely just found him, every scene he was in, he was absolutely hilarious, and he kind of lit up the screen as well. He brought that element of just comedy and like what every little like this type of film needs, but he does it in a way that just brought absolute joy. Like that scene when he's going through all the different religious symbols to try and save himself is absolutely hilarious, and it just shows you like the intelligence. Even though he's like a street rat scumbag, he's just as clever as O'Connor to basically get the track and then get that there. But how hilarious he was, like in certain things, and like some of the best lines in it as well as between Benny and O'Connor, like that whole thing say, O'Connor, we've got all the horses. And then O'Connor's reply is good. Well, Benny, we're on the right side of the river. And then just to see his face and the reaction when he kicks off, and he knows he's got to basically, it's got like even though he's got the horses, it's going to put him back to try and get back across the river. And he guys come up and say, even though like I say he wasn't the nice guy or like the good guy, he was just the regular guy who was just trying to get by. But he got his comeuppance because he couldn't leave the gold behind, and he got trapped in there as well. So that was always a little bit sad. But what would you say?
He set Rick and Evie up for life because of that, because they end up on that camel with all that gold.
see, he wasn't as stupid as he looked or he made out as well. What, because I said, going back to the horror element to this movie as well, what would you say is the scariest moment in this movie? Because it does have like a little bit like, quite freaky parts or bits that give you a little bit of a jump. Because there's one bit that does give me like the ick and probably makes us uncomfortable. Is Ahmad Jalali when the scarab goes under his skin, and you see it going through his chest, and he's trying to get it out, and it's just it makes us itchy just thinking about it.
I have an amazing bit of trivia about this.
Right.
I don't know if anyone's aware in the film. During that scene, he exposes himself in the movie.
All right.
And once you've seen it, you cannot unsee it that it happens.
Right.
So he was so adamant that to be true to the costuming, he should not wear anything under his trousers.
Okay.
It wouldn't happen.
So we've got a Jessica Rabbit moment there now.
Moment where he's pulling the shirt off and he's trying to catch it. When he goes down his leg, it sort of pops out of his trouser leg and pops back in. And it apparently kept happening on every take, and he had to keep telling him, like, you're exposing yourself. And he's like, but it's true to the costume. You know what it was?
I found that out the other day.
Jonathan's, for me, like Jonathan's when it's going up the arm and he's screaming, it's like, when are they going to get there in time to get it out? Because you've seen what happens.
Yeah.
That one was quite intense. When you watch the first one, you're not aware if everyone's going to make it out at the end. Would he go out in this awful way?
Yeah.
Just before.
And you kind of waiting for Jonathan to die as well, because his character in like all type of movies, like the comedy sidekick, the lovable rogue type thing, you know, he's like, if they're going to kill one of them off, he is the one that they would kill off. So you think that is going to be like say the death nail. So you but I think though why I didn't fall for the switch and bait with it is because we've already seen that death. So if it was a different death, yes, I could have seen Jonathan being killed. But the fact that we've already seen someone die that way, it was always going to be like, especially with like say O'Connor being there, being the macho superhero he is, and just pulls out the knife and whips it out and just chops it off. But what were you going to say there, Lee, as well? You were like just in mid thought.
Sorry, it was just that Omar Jalali scene. I found out that the other day as well, and afterwards I did have to say to Bex, if you go on my computer, just ignore my search history, because you can imagine the weird thing that I had to type into Google to see that scene.
The Omar Jalali's dick pic from The Mummy.
Basically, yeah.
So that's, like I say, it goes back. Like, there's probably there is a website that tells you every single naked scene or naked flash in the movie, like say history as well. So I have to check to make sure that's on there, Lee. If not, we'll get you to write with your report. You can be the nerd correspondent to that website. Shall we say? But yeah, so what about you guys? Like, I know me and Jess has mentioned our scariest little moments there. What about you? What moments did you find quite like irky or scary in the Mummy?
I've never been scared of it, but the bit that gives me the ick is the scarab beetle. I don't like bugs, not keen on bugs to begin with. But I just didn't like it.
Yeah, made you feel uncomfortable, like
yeah.
I couldn't sit down for a little bit afterwards, thinking there's something like on your leg. Might be something on your leg already, but we'll not go there. What about you, Lee?
The scarab, yeah, that scene with Omar Jalali, that is terrifying.
What about at the start as well, when Imhotep gets put into the casket, when you see him in the full mummy garb and you think, oh, that looks great, and then the CGI scarabs, and again watching it back now, it gives us a lot of questions to think of, like, why didn't, if the scarabs were that great at climbing or running around, why didn't they just crawl out the pot, like if they were that violent and stuff like that, and then they got poured into the casket and they just stayed in there just running over it? Was it the fewer hunger of eating the flesh of Imhotep and stuff like that?
But not included in the movie.
There's only a couple of them actually in the casket. It's not like when the casket opens, like this big, like kind of mound of them falls out. So they must have gotten out, hence they're filling the pyramid.
Or would they meet each other?
So what is it? Is it called the Humdai or something like that?
Yeah, it's like the punishment.
Yeah. So he's not dead the whole time while he's in that casket. That part of that is he is living forever by living off those scarabs, right. But they also regenerate and eat him, so they live forever, and it's all part of some spell.
All right.
So it's just a circle of life thing. So he's just for all eternity eaten and being eaten.
And again, I'm going to break your heart here as well, because like the thing I just don't get and understand for this movie as well, because when you think about it, it makes no sense at all. I know we're talking about the mummy movie, like come back to the dead and like say, but this guy Imhotep done the worst and created the worst thing that could happen at that time. It, like, betrayed his emperor. So what they did, they give him this curse, but as part of the curse, if he was alive, he'd become the strongest being ever known to man. Why would you do that to someone who's done something so wrong? Why would you give him that power?
Because we needed a plot device to have a movie.
Exactly. That does, but when you think about it as a sensible big human being, like this guy is a bad guy. Like we wouldn't do it to say let's go there. Like we wouldn't do it with Hitler. We wouldn't say Hitler has done the worst atrocities to man. Let's put him in, give him a punishment, but part of the punishment is he's a curse, and if he's revived, he'll come back and be the most powerful monster, like part 2. So with Imhotep doing the same thing, that to me just like fried my brain. As a young kid, I didn't think about it now. As an adult, I'm watching it back. I'm like, why would you make such a stupid mistake?
As well as we talk about the X-Men, why would you send Wolverine every time you need to battle Magneto? Makes no sense.
It's because it makes good storytelling and good violence and good cinema, I guess. As Sammy always keeps telling us, movie magic as well. I know we talked about, like I said, elements of like the bigger universe that we could have had and stuff like that. Other like big vibes I got from this movie as well, and again, just watching it back like recently, I didn't realize it back in the time. I've got big King Kong vibes for some reason. Like the whole, like say going on the, like say the paddle boats and like taking something away from like a sacred zone and taking it back to like modern like humanity and stuff, and like the punishment and the reactions for it. I didn't realize like say like probably all the big monster movies or big things have these like iterations, but I got a lot of King Kong vibes from this movie that I wasn't expecting. Don't know if anyone else thought that since.
I think it's a thing. They're both set in a very similar time as well. You watch the first movie, obviously, it's set in the early 1920s. So you're hitting the same sort of era how the original King Kong was done. So you can see quite a lot of similarities in how people would travel. This quest for unearthing the new greatest thing. It does kind of have that, yeah. It's actually, I never thought about this, but yeah, it does. Kind of cool. I don't think we've had Imhotep like climbing the Empire State Building though.
That would have been interesting, though, seeing Imhotep going full. But saying that though, that could have been like the Mummy 5, like bringing back Imhotep to take on Manhattan or something like that. Jason Voorhees style, having some kid punk like getting in a fist fight with Imhotep, and then Imhotep taking his head off and falling into a garbage pan. That would have been an interesting take. But saying that though, Jason Takes Manhattan is one of the better Friday the 13th movies. Go and watch that, guys. But I didn't think I would be talking about Friday the 13th on a Mummy episode though. But yeah. So what elements, like as you said, because I think one of the big factors to this is the likability of the characters, but the rewatchability of this movie as well. It doesn't seem to get boring, because a lot of the movies, like if you watched and went back over, is that down to the cast or is it just down to the subject matter? What do you think?
Possibly a bit of both.
Right.
Because there are still people who love the mythology side to it, and they will need to watch it.
Oh, hello, Nova. What about you guys?
It has this sort of, the Mummy gives me the same feeling as watching Lord of the Rings. It's this comfort.
But the Mummy's not about walking.
Technically it is.
There's a bit of walking in there. But no, it's this lovely sort of cozy feeling when you settle into it. It's again why it's the perfect movie. The heroes win. The monster gets taken out.
Yeah.
Defining it really for me, the relationship built between Rick and Evie, for me, is one of the best on-screen relationships.
Yeah, that chemistry is magic.
He's never actually a damsel in distress at any point. She knows exactly what she's doing. She knows when the time is to accept, go along with, and trust that Rick knows enough to get there in time. It's the same thing. It's Rick never oversteps Evie. You never find him mansplaining. Awkwardly like stepping over and holding on to her or anything like that. He has this full adoration and respect that she knows way more than he'll ever know.
Mm-hmm.
And being happy to stand behind her,
Yeah.
not have her stood alongside him.
Mm.
And that build of that relationship is quite ahead of its time for 1999. Like, we're still not even getting these relationships now.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, I think that's the fondness you get. It's like, there's that perfect relationship that everyone would want, the duality of two people totally accepting each other for what they are.
Yeah.
And wanting to learn more from each other and be like each other.
I 100% agree with you there as well, because a lot of people, when you look back at The Mummy, they think Brendan Fraser, and that is like the standout part. But Raquel Weisz, like I'll never say her name right. She holds her own in this movie, and she is like, the movie wouldn't be the same if like Evie wasn't like the Evie that we got in this movie as well. The standout part as well is when like they're cornered up against like say against the mountain, and O'Connor's just got the gun pointing at them. No, it wasn't the mountain. It was outside of the temple or something when they got back to the town, and Imhotep's like walking towards him. He's got his full form back. He's basically killed all the Americans because all the Americans needed to die always. But she kind of takes like the lead and says, no, this is what's has to happen for us to get out of this aspect. You know what to do. And she puts that trust in that. She kind of like takes charge. And as you said, other than a few other standouts like Ripley being one from that time, females was always the damsel in distress, especially in these movies, these type of movies, these action movies as well. Because if you look at them, we had the Indiana Jones movies where we did have strongish female presence, but they were always rescued by Indy. They were always needed Indiana Jones. Again, going back to like
women in action movies, they're either the damsel in distress or the I need no man. And it's like, no, there's this lovely one that it's kind of like, I would like a man, but also if I had to, I could hold my own. And it's lovely in that sense. I think it's a much more relatable character.
100%, and it
felt
natural.
All little girls kind of wanted to be Evie. And all of us wanted to be seen the way that she was seen in that movie.
Yeah, and it felt natural as well. I think in a lot of ways.
Like,
100%.
I feel like it's quite progressive for like women in action movies as well. Just this movie, even though we have had people like Ripley. But
and remember, we've all got to thank Jennifer Lawrence for giving us these female role models. They all stemmed from her. But yeah, sorry,
most women v women fights before this that I can even think of, it's always hair pulling, slapping, and just a bit of a tussle. But going into The Mummy Returns, she has some of the best fight scenes out of any of those movies, especially when she's fighting in Nooks on the Moon, like in the past and in the future. Those are some badass scenes. And she did all of her own stunt work as well.
All right, I didn't know that. Didn't know that.
Is how come Imhotep did not recognize Evie as a reincarnation of Nefertiti in the first film? How?
Because it didn't happen in the first film.
I think he might have had bad eyesight because the first person that he took was I can't remember his name, but it was the guy who was like, my glasses, I can't see without my glasses.
And then he talked without.
Then he's just blurry vision.
And when he removed his tongue, he talked like, "Whoa, Albert, I've got no tongue." Yeah, that sucks though, like I said. But yeah, I think that was just basically we need another plot device to get Evie more presence in The Mummy Returns, and it was kind of like, yeah, she's a reincarnation of this person. I was like, oh, you didn't have to do that. But yeah, again, as with sequels that add stuff on that don't make sense if there was in the original. But as you said, Raquel Weisz holds her own with anyone in these movies, and I don't think anyone else. And again, I know you could get like other actresses or actors in this role, but I don't think anyone else would have been as fun or as natural as Jessica put it. It was like how a romance or relationship can start. Like I said, initial attraction by seeing each other, She makes reference to, oh, that kiss wasn't that good, and clearly it rang some bells there for her as well. But again, O'Connor does come across as a bit of a rogue, but he's never a dick in this as well.
Yeah.
I feel like her not being in the third movie kind of ruined that as well, because of there wasn't that chemistry between Brendan and whoever the other woman was. I don't know. I can't remember. I haven't seen it for that long, and I'm not going to watch it.
It's your punishment. It's your penance for not knowing you've got to watch it tonight. Yes.
There's one character in it that I like because it's not on its nose explained. But when you get the character of Jonathan, he comes off as just obviously kind of that awkward sidekick to the movie. And there's not a lot of really history given to who Jonathan is, other than he's Evie's kind of obviously getting himself in trouble brother.
Yeah.
But it's a funny one when you realise where the plot time is and everything like that. Jonathan's been to war. Jonathan's the guy who's come back from war completely disenchanted. It's why he is quite lackadaisical in everything that he's doing, that he's not too fussed. He'd like to stay alive, but what's the point at this point? Very much like Winston, where he's just waiting for
the next
the
adventure.
inevitability to come.
And I forgot all about Winston, but he was like there was no wasted characters in this movie as well. I think like each person had played the part. So, and as of the time, and like the place they were in, there would have been that old British pilots or the British things like just swanning off their retirement years in like an Egyptian place like that. So it was quite fitting. But I enjoyed Winston in this as well, even though it was a little bit of a sad ending. The only thing, again, not to knock the movie and thing, I know we're talking about 1999, and I think with the sequels it got progressively worse. Because at the time, the CGI in this was quite revolutionary. It changed a lot of things, some for the good, some for the worse, I'll be honest. Because after movies like The Mummy and say Jurassic Park and other type big budget action movies where they used a lot of CGI, it kind of threw companies into saying we don't need the practical effects anymore. We can always just use the CGI elements. And this one didn't overuse it, but I think it was probably one of the leaders in saying this is what you can do with CGI. And it
was definitely a landmark, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it led into things like one of the greatest movies of all time, Lord of the Rings, with the motion capture and stuff as well.
I'll let you have that one. Chris will be happy you said that, so don't worry. He's probably looking after Molly as we speak, but don't worry. He's going to punch me one of these days. But yeah, the CGI, I think this is the first one I noticed big that it was computer generated effects, especially things like the jawbone when Imhotep screams and you see him stretched out, and he freaks out when he sees the cat as well. That was like not the greatest CGI. When you watch it back now, you think of if they'd used practical effects or used different elements, which probably would have cost more, it probably would stand the test of time a little bit better and a little bit stronger. Because with CGI, it is always improving, but there's certain elements or certain things that you kind of wish they used or didn't get too over carried away with. Or is that just me because I like practical effects?
I think obviously there was some stuff at its time. Yeah, if they could have done with practical, it would have been interesting to see how it would have come across in practical. But it wasn't. I think there's that thing in that late 90s, early 2000s. We kind of craved that weird CGI over the top, that it didn't have to be so realistic in its way. Possibly keeps the movie slightly lighter as well. I think if they'd have done it with practical effects, it'd have been a much darker movie. Probably wouldn't have been able to come out as PG.
No.
Maybe wouldn't have been as much of a hit because it is quite a child-friendly movie. There is nothing in it that you have to I've put it on for my kids, and there's nothing in it where I think let's see if we can get not to notice this scene. All of it is very safe across the board.
Mm-hmm.
The monster's just scary enough for kids, enjoyable enough for adults.
It's one of those films that every age range can get something from it. It's almost like The Simpsons in a way. There's jokes for the adults, there's jokes for the kids. There's I think the best way to describe it is just a lot of fun. I know when I went to Florida, I don't know if the ride's still there. The Mummy ride was always one of the showstoppers. It was always one with the biggest queues to go on. In essence, it was like everything that you go in, it looks amazing and the detail and everything they do. But as a ride, it is basically just a roller coaster in the dark. But I'll be honest with you, it is one of the scariest rides you'll ever go on because literally they do have live fire above you as you're going through one of the tunnels, and it feels so hot. And say a few people actually come off with singed hair. It was that freaky and that scary.
Do they still have when the queue is too long and people get on so the queue moves forward? Is there still people in the queue going, Imhotep?
They do have the sound effects around the queue. They've got people in outfits dressed as the people who are protecting the mummy or protecting the secret of the mummy, and it's like they standing being the cast members, so they'll jump out of you and try and scare you at time. They did the same with Skull Island opened up in Florida. I loved waiting in the queue for Skull Island, but the ride was over within 30 seconds. It was probably the most disappointing 30 seconds I've had since Goodwill. But the actual waiting in the queue for Skull Island was amazing because you had all the village people, people dressed as the guests. The actors and
the actual village people.
Mm-hmm.
People. There was a policeman, there was a construction worker.
They had people there. Oh no, not them village people. That would have been quite entertaining. That's cracking out there the Blue Oyster from the Blue Oyster come from Police Academy and stuff going through that door. That might be the mistake I made. Was the Blue Oyster, wasn't it? Possibly. I'm trying to go the Police Academy movie. That was it. But no. The people with bones in the noses and stuff standing in little holes, and if you walk past the hole, they would pop their head out and shout at you and stuff like that. So the detail that they do go on, but the ride was over within 30 seconds. It was, and I waited 40 minutes to go on, so I was very pissed off at that one. But yes. But anyway, sorry, back to the Mummy. Would you say this, because you couldn't remake the Mummy now, if you were going to, because Tom Cruise tried to do it and it didn't have the same impact.
In the words of Brendan Fraser, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Would you do, if you were going to do a follow-on, or because a lot of the companies are not the big franchises aren't looking to do a sequel, like a TV show type thing, would you do it in the Mummy universe? And how would you say it would work, or how would you feel about that?
They set it up for a sequel anyway, didn't it? After the second one, I don't think it was we're going to do a sequel. It was just a little joke at the end where Jonathan goes to Mexico and he's like, "Oh, thank God, there's no mummies here." Meanwhile, they're digging up mummies in some pyramid over there.
There's always mummies out kicking about, but as we're talking before, I think if you're doing it in the same type of universe, I know Brendan Fraser's on a bit of a comeback trail. I wouldn't mind seeing him come back as an older O'Connor, to say guide his kid. I know they try to do it with the Mummy 3, but I wouldn't. This wouldn't be a franchise I would say is dead and could stay dead and buried. There's a lot of leg work that could go into it, or a lot of stuff that, as you said, answers that would be fun.
I think if they were ever to go back and revisit that particular series of the Mummy, it'd have to be something along the lines of what they've just done with Ghostbusters. It would be fan service to a point, but it has to be fan service that we actually want. So maybe allowing Ardeth Bay to come back and see where he's been, because obviously he didn't sign up for the third film. The actor's opinion was, if Imhotep wasn't in it, why would I be in it?
Yeah.
I make no sense in this story now. Those little revisits back, and it would define on having Rachel Weisz to come back and actually return back for Evie. I think that would be what everyone would be waiting for, to see her and Brendan Fraser back together again.
Yeah.
As a much older, seasoned Rick and Evie.
Like an adventure, like in the retirement home, like almost like Bubba Hotep, like Elvis coming back, but having Evie in there, and O'Connor just like fighting in the retirement home, having the mummy come back and
Somebody's got Bruce Campbell on the phone.
Bruce Campbell. That's what we need, more films with Bruce Campbell in as well. It's a difficult one as well because, as you said, it is a much loved franchise, even though the third one doesn't get talked about. Like the Scorpion King is said in hushed tones. As Lee shakes his head.
Scorpion King. I think
the Scorpion King as a standalone movie isn't actually that bad, really. They did an okay story of what they were going for. Obviously, there's the issues with the CGI when they did the second one. I don't know why. I don't know why that was the concept design. But
it was rushed. They finished the CGI. It got rushed, and they only managed to get it 8 days before the film was premiered.
Wow. Well, you can kind of tell. I would say I've seen better CGI in the actual WWE wrestling games at times as well that look more like The Rock. But yeah, so with, like, say, these type of reviews that we do now, we like to give it a top out of 5. Lee started the ball last week with giving Demolition Man 5 out of 5. You did give it 5 out of 5, didn't you? Is that right?
Yep.
You stand by that still?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's give you time. So we'll go with Beth. What would you give The Mummy out of 5?
Definitely a 5, because I really enjoyed it and I still do.
So you can't pick any faults with the movie or anything that you would improve?
No. Maybe just add a bit more of the mythology side. I think they couldn't do that with the first one, with it just being merely Imhotep.
Okay.
But I think a bit more mythology side, yes.
Cool. What about you, Jessica?
I'm the same. I think it's a solid 5 out of 5. You get everything you want out of it. There's nothing really in the movie I would change. I think
it's very rare you get to say that as well about movies as well. There's nothing you would change. I say I like that though. Because I think a lot of people go looking too hard for things or for problems in movies. They forget that movies are meant to be enjoyable and just, like, say, take your mind off things and live that little bit of fantasy. But yes, what about you, Lee? Is this going to be across the board?
Fives all around.
5 5s. I'll be awkward and say a 4.5 because it's not The Goonies. That is the only perfect movie, shall we say? But there's a cat in the background. Sorry, I've just saw the cat.
Yeah, she's perusing. Had her sunny still. She's now going to go for a wander around the room.
Bless her. See, she's protecting you for Imhotep, keeping you away from all these mummies that come and attack. But yeah,
do you know we almost didn't have Brendan Fraser for this because he had to be resuscitated during the hanging scene.
Right.
I think he was dead for like a minute or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
He kept asking for go more realistic, let's tighten it, and then it was a case of they took it too far. And almost missed resuscitating him because they thought he was just acting really well. He stayed on the floor. It's wild though with Brendan Fraser. There's a missed opportunity, I think, there was with him. This defined he could have been one of the biggest action stars of the time.
Yeah. And
unfortunately, studios looked at him for comedy, and he very quickly dipped out of this action movie. Since this is really the only proper action movie he ever did. The rest were all pretty much comedies from him. But he was so good as an action star.
And it was a time when they were crying out for the next big action star as well, though, because they were looking to replace Arnie, they were looking to replace Stallone. That's why they were looking at The Rock as the next thing, like Jason Statham come in. I think Brendan Fraser would have been a different type of action movie star, but one that would have worked and one that would have... I would have liked to see more. I don't know, there's a lot of backstory and a lot of things that went on. But if you look back to like the 90s and the films that Brendan Fraser was in, he didn't make a bad film.
No, he was huge at his time. He really was. He was Hollywood's main guy to come to. If he wanted a good movie, he went to Brendan Fraser. And he's always had solid movies across the board. I think it is one of those things. He is just that lovely person that puts a lot into his work.
Definitely. And a genuine nice guy as well. And you see the reaction he gets now, and it's lovely to see. And the time he does have for his fans. So he's one of these people that you want good things for and you kind of root for. And the time when Hollywood and everything is bad and everything is just basically falling around people, and you hear stories about your heroes being complete arseholes or bellends or monsters at the scary side of things. But he kind of is a pillar. Like, there's not many of them out there. Like, I think him and Keanu Reeves is the two people you've got to protect at all costs. Robin Williams.
Danny DeVito as well must be protected at all costs. He's also just an absolute lovely person through and through.
See, if I ever met Danny DeVito, I want him to act like Frank. I know he won't ever be that guy, but if he doesn't act like Frank, I'll be gutted.
I don't know whether you can see it in the background. I actually have a pillow of Frank on the bed.
Just make sure he doesn't shit the bed. So yes, any other factoids or things that you want to add?
Not a fact, but did anybody else think that was Billy Zane all these years?
I love this as a joke about people thinking that Billy Zane and Arnold Vosloo are the same person. And watching movies like, oh look, it's Imhotep. It's like, it's not, that's Billy Zane. It's not the same guy.
I thought it was Billy Zane until about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Also, how did everyone feel going into the second one? The end of Imhotep's story. Did you feel sorry for him? Because Anubis and the Moon basically ditches him.
Yeah.
I was going to bring this up, and I actually love the ending. It breaks my heart every time, but it's a good sort of full circle. Because say when you watch the first one and he's pitched as the villain, and then really getting that story down at the end, it's. No, he wasn't. He was a guy.
The look in his eyes when he drops into the pit of souls or whatever it is.
Realization.
Like, oh God.
The whole build of the scene. It's Evie is not long since she's been brought back. He's already died once, and they're both there. They're hanging, and you've got Brendan Fraser, and he's screaming at her like, "Don't do it. Just go. Take the kid. Get Jonathan. Get out." He makes that epic run across with all the CGI bikes coming down and stuff. But it's that look in his eye that he calls for her, and she's just like, nah, no. And he looks at them too, and there's this. It's a heartbreak, but he has this little smile to them of just kind of like, that's what I wanted. Is what you guys had. That's all I was trying to achieve. So the acceptance of just let it go now.
Yeah.
Accept the fate. It wasn't worth it. And I do like that she gets comeuppance at the end that she doesn't get out of the pyramid. She falls into the pit of scarabs, and you're like, good. I'm glad you did.
Bad guy. Too good for you. In these movies, the bad guys always gets the comeuppance, and that's always the thing that good storytelling. You always have to have people you root for. Always have to have people that you hate. There can always be like a plot twist or anything, but good action or good family-friendly movies, you need to have the bad guys getting what's deserved. For these type of ones, so it was always a good tale as old as time, shall we say? I'll go a bit of Beauty and the Beast aspect, but I think with these movies as well, like even if you go like the sequels and everything that comes back, it lives and dies with the relationships with the cast, with the actors, and the thing that screams from The Mummy, like from start to finish, is everyone that's on that set or everyone that's in that movie looks and feels like they are having the best time. Like nobody feels like they're doing it for a paycheck or doing it there because they have to type thing. Everything that looks like that's going on, it's done with an energy that you don't get in many movies, and you can tell when actors phone it in or when the performances are just there just because they have to be. Like Edward Norton in the Incredible Hulk is one of the ones that screams out to me. you get the feeling that the people involved in these movies don't want to be a part of it. But these ones, that's probably why a lot of the characters did come back for the sequel as well, because not many movies you get a full return of literally the entire cast. And I don't know if, like I say, there was if they made more money, if they didn't, they should have, shall we say? But yes, so like I say,
There's something in the second one that always bothered me, that I wanted so much more context of what was going on. When they bring in, and I cannot remember what the character's name was. There's the other group that come in, and they're all in the red.
Alan Cummings, not Alan Cummings. Alan, what's his name?
Quartermain, was it? Or?
It's the main one who basically gets hold of Alex and takes him. So there's an underlying story between him and Ardeth Bay. These guys know each other. They've known each other for a long time, because it's always a bit of a standoff between the two of them. You never find out what it is. Why is it these two that they clearly know each other? Something's happened before. I always want to know, it's like, why these two? What is it about them?
Might be in
What is the backstory?
Might be stuff that was cut out or not like filmed and stuff, like type thing. Yeah, I haven't watched The Mummy 2 in a long time, so I probably will have to revisit that one to experience. But yes, so we'll wrap up there, because I've got to do some painting as well. Innuendo didn't even mean there, but yes. So yes, The Mummy is a solid action movie. It is a movie that you can go back to. It's probably a movie that you would watch once a year, or even more times a year if you're Lee. Because he does get a little bit obsessive over these things. But yes, so that is our lunchtime special, shall we say. We are returning on Friday, because Goodwill is taking a week off from trekking up north. So we are doing another movie review on Friday night, where we're reviewing the 1990 classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where we'll be going deep diving back into the lore. And let's be honest, since we last done a Turtles episode, we had to take that episode down. It's about time the Nerdy Up North channel had a Turtles episode up there, so we can be proud of and enjoy. Then we'll be back on Sunday, and then Monsters Up North will be back on Monday with the Monster Squad, I believe they are discussing. On Sunday's episode, we have decided on doing our favourite scares, and we do have a special guest on there, someone who has quite a big following on Instagram, so it's going to be quite interesting to see her take on like the horror genre as well. And no doubt, I think, Lee, you're going to be back on Friday, is that right?
Yep, Friday, yep, I'll be there.
Can I get rid of you? And no doubt Jessica will be returning again soon. And we'll have the lovely Beth on again. I think the next one, I think we've got you penciled in for, is the Final Destination one. Is that right?
Yep.
So you can talk about how you like to kill people and watch them die. So yes. So join in. So if you have watched the video, please like it. Please share. Please tell your friends about us. Please join the Discord, even though, like, say, the Daddy Discord is here and he will brutalize you. In a nice way, of course. But yes, anything else you guys want to plug?
I think Jake's in the chat. I think he said he might be streaming on Thursday, possibly.
All right, okay.
But I think he said he's going to try and entertain us somewhere through the week.
Cool. Are you streaming anytime this week?
Possibly tomorrow night. Just depends on work, I think.
Cool. What about you, Beth? Any more serial reviews coming up?
Possibly. Maybe.
Well, been getting some special serial in there. And as always, the lovely Jessica, like, if you want to check out her cosplay, go to her Instagram page.
If anyone's at York Unleashed on Sunday, come say hi. I will be on the sword stall plugging our wares.
Ah, very nice. So yes, same bat time, same bat channel.
Stay nerdy, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.